Hello students, welcome to the EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Vandana Dave from Women Studies Research Center, Kurukshetra University. Today, I am going to talk about the module Problems of Dalit Women, Devadasi and Prostitution, Enforcing Cultural Codes, Caste Panchayats and Honor Killings, Rural, Urban and Slum Women from paper Policies and Current Debates. The learning objectives of the module are to make the readers aware about the problems of Dalit women, prostitutes, rural urban slum women, and enforcing cultural codes. Women are now participating in all spheres of life like politics, media, service sector, science, and technology and trying to prove themselves, but traditional patriarchal norms in the form of violence are trying to push them back. It is evident through the fatwas passed by the caste panchayats to reduce the age of marriage of girls and through other incidences of sexual crimes and violence on women. Some religious practices like Devadasi and the practice of prostitution sexually harasses women. Dalit women are also among the category of oppressed. Dalit women in India are a very distinct social group. While belonging to a broad class of have-nots, they suffer an additional disability of social oppression. This social oppression varies from the crudest variety of untouchability still being practiced in rural areas to the sophisticated forms of discrimination encountered even in modern sectors of urban areas. Problems of Dalit women. Dalit means a person belonging to the lowest caste of the Indian society, which includes the scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, and other backward classes. However, the term is mainly used for the scheduled caste. Dalits are still suffering from economic, political, social, and cultural deprivation. The women belonging to the Dalit community are rather in a more vulnerable state. They face double oppression in the form of being a Dalit and also a woman. Being the untouchable community, they also face oppression from the women belonging to upper castes. The caste system of India, which is called the Varn Vyavastha, divides the communities by the way of their occupation. Dalits are mostly leather workers, weavers, sweepers, or agricultural laborers employed on petty jobs or are small entrepreneurs. Now, some have even occupied the blue collar jobs, but their social status has not changed much. In the rural areas, Dalit women are largely laborers employed in the agriculture sector as landless laborers, as domestic laborers for the landlords of the village, in animal husbandry, or as laborers in the small scale industry of the village. In the urban sector, Dalit women are hired as daily wage earners on the construction sites, as domestic servants, and have occupied small jobs in the organized sector. Employment prospects for Dalit women in particular are too grim. Entry into the organized sector depends largely upon their awareness in addition to education qualification and previous job experience. Some other problems include segmentation in the labor market, which works against Dalit women, adverse implications of technological growth, and lack of unionization of female workers. Participation of Dalit women in organized sector is considerably low or negligible. Low level of literacy is a major problem among Dalit women, which gives rise to many more problems. Among the school dropout girls, majority are Dalits. Low level of literacy is also a major reason for prevalence of some ill practices among Dalit women like childhood marriage and superstitions. Dalit women suffer the health risk due to the inadequate quantity and inferior nutritional quality food due to their low economic status. The politics in India is centered around money and caste. Women involved in politics and power sharing are mainly from the upper caste with political and high financial background. The reservation of Dalit women in the local governance being provided through 73rd and 74th Amendment does not widen the reality of women's political visibility. Dalit women become victims of societal violence every day. They are always the victims of exploitation by the upper caste, sexually or otherwise. Mass rape, public parading of naked women, social boycott, prohibiting entry to public places, and murders are the incidents reported daily in the newspapers. The hierarchical structure of Hindu society, considering Dalit women inferior and voiceless, is the reason why they are subjected to violence. The pathetic state of Dalit women led the state and society to initiate action for the socio-economically deprived section of the population by adopting the policy of protective discrimination. They are given reservation in educational and vocational institutions, jobs, and legislatures so that they may be able to come out of the social system which condemned them to a life of poverty and social degradation and to live a life with dignity and equality. Devadasi and prostitution. Devadasi was a culturally sanctioned practice where a girl was dedicated to a deity, an object of worship, or to a temple, which exploited women. The term Devadasi is a Sanskrit word that can be broken into Deva, that is God, and Dasi, that is slave, literally meaning a female slave of God. This cult continues to exist throughout India with some regional variations, though there is no substantial evidence of the existence of this practice in ancient India. Some historians have suggested that the Devadasi system was known in the prehistoric cities at Harappa and Mohenjo-daro of the Indus Valley civilization. The genesis of the Devadasi cult and its regional variations is usually traced back to agricultural society where young girls were voluntarily dedicated to God by their families to ensure soil fertility and to secure blessings for the community as a whole. It was believed that this custom primarily emerged as a substitute for human sacrifice. Another theory was that the system emerged from the belief that offering something propitiates the deity and using the concept of divine desire. Priests started demanding young girls from devotees. In South India, historical and literary records show that the Devadasi system began to flourish during the Pallava and Chol dynasties from the 6th to 13th century AD. It was a matter of prestige for the temple to employ Devadasi in good number. Being in the service of the deity, she was accorded both ritual sanctity and social eminence. However, in many temples, the Devadasi were sexually exploited and their earnings were collected by temple authorities. These women were sexually exploited by the priests, pilgrims, and sadhus of the sacred complex. In the beginning, the girls were offered by their parents, evidently motivated by religious fervors as an offering of one's dearest object. Later, however, the rich and high caste people started buying other low caste people's daughters to offer to the deity besides offering their own. The Devadasis were not allowed to marry as they were considered married to the temple deity. Such a marriage with the deity left no chance of widowhood because the deity was immortal. The Devadasi, apart from being devoted servant of the temple deity, became the symbol of art, of music and dance. In return of their services, the Devadasis were granted gifts of cash or land, which resulted in a rapid increase in the number of Devadasis being offered to the temples and also gave rise to the development of practice of prostitution in the form of Devadasi. Even today, in certain villages of South India, a number of Devadasis can be found, most of them devoted to the flesh trade than to the deity. The agitation to weed out this evil practice was first started in 1868 with the coming into force in 1861 of the Indian Penal Code, the recruitment of girls for employing them as Devdasi was held an offence punishable under section 372 of the Indian Penal Code. Another practice which exploits women sexually is the practice of prostitutes. Prostitution is a category of extramarital relations and is legally defined as illegal sexual relations for hire. The prevalence of prostitution in ancient India is referred to in Vedic as well as epic literature. The prostitutes, normally referred to as city beauties or city wives, were specially invited to dance on various festive occasions. The Indian society, although prostitution was looked down upon, prostitutes always enjoyed an honored place right from ancient times. They were granted special privileges by kings as well as religious authorities. Presently, the prostitutes are called as commercial sex workers, can be divided into two categories, that is, professional and non-professional. Professional includes those who are running brothels or working as call girls, and the second category comprised of victims of social conditions like kidnapping, loss of financial resources of the family, loss of family, etc. The Immoral Traffic Prevention Act 1956 aimed to curb and abolish trafficking and prostitution of women and children as an organized means of living. Amendment to this act in 1978 says that any landlord, owner, tenant, occupier is punishable if he knowingly uses the premises for prostitution or allows it for such use. Enforcing cultural codes, caste panchayats and honor killings. Each and every culture sets some norms or customs which have their importance for society as their function of exercising control over the conduct of individuals. These social and cultural codes determine the perceptions, judgments, and conduct of individuals of that particular society. These codes of conducts mold the individual's life in a manner that they have no objection to conforming to customs. Besides, they want to avoid castigation from society for not abiding to them. The cultural codes also provide the society a clear guidance in all actions like rules for marriage, relationship with other communities, etc. Caste Panchayat also set some code of conduct for the people under its jurisdiction. The Indian social fabric is organized around the village unit, which is comprised of a group of certain castes and subcastes. Khap is a term for a social political grouping and used in a geographical sense. A number of villages grouped themselves into a Gohand corresponding to the present Thana area. A number of Gohand form a Khap covering an area equal to from a tehsil to a district, and a number of Khaps form a Sarv Khap embracing a full province or state. The Khap Panchayats are clan or Gotra councils. The exogamous Gotra of the Jats are in fact clans. The Hindu Jats still retain tribal organization, and each Jat clan has a geographical area of its own. The villages in which a clan is settled are organized into clan council, and area under its jurisdiction is called Khap. The head of a Khap Panchayat is elected in an informal manner through consensus. The villages under the jurisdiction of Khap Panchayat comprise not only the Jat population of Khap but also other castes and communities. The Khap Panchayat is a traditional and informal organization. It is a sociological as well as political organization. The Khap Panchayat regulates not only the social customs of the dominant clan of the Jats of the Khap but also of the Jats of other clans living in its jurisdiction. Sometimes it also tries to influence the decision of the other clans living in the contiguous areas. Khap Panchayat is an exclusive male institution and the women have no share or say in it. Although the Khap leaders claim that they hold women in high esteem and are prepared to make supreme sacrifice for safeguarding their favor, the women have remained excluded from it. The Khap Panchayats are traditional, pre-modern, and new tribal and new feudal institutions over which the traditional leaders of the dominant clan of the Khap have hegemony. Customarily, the Biradari uses these traditional panchayats to settle a variety of disputes regarding caste and intercaste matters, transgressions, questions of property rights, inheritance, and disputes which threaten the peace of the village or the immediate region. Questions of marriage and sexual affairs form a significant proportion of such disputes, and panchayats frequently intervene to impose justice according to its own definition. Some retrograde decisions of certain Khap Panchayat of the Jats of Haryana, such as breaking the already solemnized marriages and preventing already fixed marriages on the ground that these violate the existing and accepted practices among the exogamous Gotras of Jats, have received wide publicity in media during the past few years. Victims of their activities are not only those about whom the fatwas or diktats of the Khap Panchayat being issued, but all those are subjects of suppression on whose daily life the social, economic, and political hegemony of vested interests is still persisting. They have assumed the role of parallel judiciary. It is openly acknowledged that a large number of cases are concerned with women. Yet no woman is allowed in the panchayat premises, not even the one who is party to the dispute. Similarly, the female audience is missing. There are a number of cases in Haryana where the caste panchayats instructed the family members to kill the girl who had run away to get married with a boy of the same but restricted clan. It is the Beti's or Behen's honor that is given precedence. Under the pretext of upholding the honor of the community, they pronounce arbitrary judgments that not only violate human rights but are also humiliating. Violence against women is closely linked to the regulation of sexuality. The ideal of masculinity is underpinned by a notion of honor of an individual man or a family or a community, and is fundamentally connected to policing female behavior and sexuality. Honor is generally seen as residing in the bodies of women. Frameworks of honor and its corollary shame operate to control, direct, and regulate women's sexuality and freedom of movement by male members of the family. Women who fall in love, engage in extramarital relationships, seek a divorce, or choose their own husbands are seen to transgress the boundaries of appropriate sexual behavior. Regulation of such behavior may in extreme cases involve horrific direct violence, including honor killing, perhaps the most overt example of the brutal control of female sexuality, as well as indirect subtle control exercised through threats of force or the withdrawal of family benefits and security. In these contexts, the rights of women and girls to control their own lives, to liberty or freedom of expression, association, movement, and bodily integrity mean very little. Rural, urban, and slum women. The factors affecting women's status and advancement are linked to the socio-cultural environment to which they belong to. Since the socio-cultural environment of rural and urban areas differs greatly, the issues and condition of rural women also differ from those of urban women. The villages are said to be the repositories of the real Indian culture, and rural women may be said to be its real custodians. In a sense, they represent true India, since the urban life is a mixture of Indian and Western thoughts and culture. Yet, life for most of the Indian rural women is not easy. They work side by side with men in the fields, fetch water from distant places, and attend to all the household drudgeries, including work related to animal husbandry. On the top of this, they are often subjected to prejudice in the orthodox milieu. With very low opportunity to get higher education, girls are subjected to early marriages, resulted in longer fertility span, and in the absence of adequate and prompt health services, they are at higher risk of maternal morbidity and maternal mortality. Besides, some evil practices like dowry and domestic violence are much pervasive in rural areas. Caste boundaries are also stronger in rural areas, giving no space to women in respect of choice of marriage or intercaste relationships. Restriction on mobility of girls is one of the main hindrances in the process of their development. Due to her sex stereotyped role as a housewife, irrespective of clan, creed, region, or religion, she spends most of her time on household chores. Many women are subjected to the drudgery of a day-to-day subsistence, working up to 16 to 18 hours per day. Such shadow work brings her no monetary returns, nor does it enhance her prestige in the family or society, which is necessary for her to participate in decision making. Since drinking water, fuel, and fodder are the basic requirements of rural areas, a major proportion of poor women's time is spent on collecting these. Poor women participate in fodder production as a part of their activities in agriculture and in cutting and fetching fodder for feeding their animals. These women also work as agricultural laborers in the fields of other people and get lower wages as compared to men folk. One more factor which is important to discuss about rural women is their participation in the Panchayati Raj institutions. Most of them act as dummy candidates, and their male family members hold the command of all actions and decision making on behalf of them. The lives of urban women differ from that of rural women to a great extent. The urban women seldom engage themselves in agricultural activities or the extended household activities like animal husbandry. They enjoy better infrastructural facilities of the urban area like the colleges and universities providing higher education, better health facilities, better employment facilities, transport facility, and a good lifestyle. All these facilities of the urban area enhance the status of urban women in a way that higher education leads to delay in marriages, better health facility uplifts their health status, availability of public transport increases their mobility and decreases their dependency on male members. Besides, they get more freedom and liberty. Better employment opportunities also increase women's role and participation in economic activities. The caste influence and societal pressure are not so strong in urban areas, thereby providing space for their development. It is also important to note that the condition of urban women varies as per the economic development of that particular area. Women in the metropolitan cities or big towns are enjoying more benefits of development, whereas women from small towns are more or less in the same conditions as the rural women are in. Due to cultural rigidity, rural women are facing more gender inequality than the urban women, while urban women are facing some other problems like working mothers require the facility of creches. Housing problem is another major issue of urban life, which is giving way to the development of slum areas. Slum is an area within or outskirts of the city which lacks standard housing, basic facilities, and security. migration from rural areas to more developed urban areas with the hope to earn more through higher paying manual labor by both men and women is the major reason for rise in slums. Men, women, and children work as construction laborer, domestic helps, rag pickers, street vendors, or run petty business. Poverty and alcoholism give rise to domestic violence and prostitution, while poor sanitary conditions produce many health problems. Since there is no basic facility, women have to fetch water from distant places and have to go to open areas for defecation. Low educational level is another problem, especially in the case of girls. Girls at a very low age join their mothers and start earning an income through some labor. Many of girls can be seen as picking rags, selling some small objects like flowers at the red traffic lights, or begging. They are at high risk of exploitation like incest, forced prostitution, and sexual abuse. The girls often face gender discrimination in the form of poor facilities, poor treatment, and child marriage. So, students, let us summarize what we have learnt in this module. In spite of the constitutional provision of equality of sexes, Dalits, specifically the Dalit women, are still suffering from economic, political, social, and cultural deprivation. Devadasi was a culturally sanctioned practice where a girl was dedicated to a deity, an object of worship, or to a temple which exploited women. Another practice which exploits women sexually is the practice of prostitutes. Presently, the prostitutes are called as commercial sex workers. Can be divided into two categories, that is professional and non-professional. The Kha Panchayats or the clan council, a traditional and informal organization, has forced certain retrograde decisions and victimized the daily lives of hundreds of people in Haryana. Women's status and advancement are linked to the socio-cultural environment to which they belong to, such as rural, urban, and slum area. Thank you.